The nerd. The universal, or rather earthly, symbol for intelligence. If we could perfect the nerd, we would have unlimited knowledge until our inevitable demises. Know-it-alls, geeks, smarty-pants, dorks, Poindexters, bookworms, so many names for our society's greatest geniuses and scholars. Being a big, fat, stinking nerd myself, I wondered just how nerdy can a nerd get? Or, in better terms, how smart can one person get? Luckily for me, a nerd, no one had directly answered this question yet. So, I set off to discover the limit of human intelligence. I tested my limits. I found secrets no one else knew. I theorized, and I hypothesized. I fought a tornado. I beat up an alligator. I climbed the highest mountain in the world, Mount Everest. Yeah, that's a lie. It was more like this. Not exciting, but, you know, a nerd's gotta do what a nerd's gotta do. Regardless of how I got it, my answer is a pretty smart one. What? Are you expecting me to just say it? That's no fun! Like any nerd, I'm going to enjoy explaining it as thoroughly as possible. Or at least until I think you understand completely, with no room for error. As I mentioned previously, no one had answered my question directly. So, I, a nerd in high school, will be the Isaac Newton for the limit of human intelligence. We will be hacking at this question like a tree. We'll start with the roots, move up to the trunk, spread out to the branches, and end with the delicious, sweet fruit of truth. Let us start at the trunk, because we've already covered the roots. What is intelligence? This is where I started. It's not as easy as a question as you may think. Most people think of IQ and EQ when tasked with measuring intelligence. These two measures, supposedly, test one's intelligence about the world. About math, science, history, technology, etc. And the other tests our intelligence about emotional and social situations. Tone, diction, mood, self-presentation, etc. While EQ is less guilty than IQ, and stay with me, neither actually measure our intelligence. And not for the reasons you may be thinking. It has to do with the separation between learning something and memorizing it. Both of these tests only have one right answer to the questions, and that is the inherent problem. Because of this, their answers don't have to be known, only memorized. According to these two tests, if intelligence is simply memorizing things, then according to the Journal of Research on English and Language Learning, we have approximately this massive number of bits of memory. However, there is also the conflicting information that a single synapse can store around 5 bits, combined with a neuron's ability to create thousands of synapses, and combined with our roughly 86 billion neurons, this kind of quantification becomes purely arbitrary. Which is why intelligence can't be thoroughly quantified at all. Well now, isn't that tricky? I've just negated my own question. It's not even something to be discussed. If memorization isn't intelligence and you can't quantify it, then what is it? Does it simply end there? No, of course not. Why would I make a whole video about something that doesn't have an answer? That's stupid, and I'm not stupid. Probably. Let us explore the unquantifiable with bees and infinity. Our capacity to gain intelligence is practically infinite, but the information there is to learn is an even higher level of infinity. Now that might sound impossible, so let us take the case of Mr. Charles Mincher, a meteorologist in the University of Kansas, who died in 2015, to help us better understand this concept. One of his colleagues, Dr. Engel, had to say this shortly after his death. There is no single individual today, and perhaps never shall be again, who has had as much first-hand experience with every lineage of bees in the field, and who commands such an all-encompassing knowledge of our world's bees. Thus, Mincher is likely the last person who knew all there was to know at the time, before his death, about bees. This great bee nerd shows us that in one lifetime, there is simply too much for any one person to learn about bees. Just bees. Look at this. Mincher spent most of his life researching just the family Apidae. Does that not seem like a lot? Well, look at this. Is this enough for you? No, how about this? Let me put this in a better perspective. Right here is every single species of animal, plant, bacteria, etc. Every living being ever. Do you think you can still quantify that? This is all of biology. How about this? This is every academic discipline. Can you quantify that? It hurts my head just to think about it. The study of bees took one man his entire life, and that small subject is nothing in comparison of what can be known. There are so many more topics to be learned, and it took him his entire natural life to learn about one subject. So, now, we're left with an even bigger conundrum than before. We have both cancelled out the limit of our intelligence and the limit of intelligence to be had. And, of course, that's a problem, because neither of our two answers worked. And we're back at the strength of EQ and IQ tests. Is it A or B? And it's neither. How is that possible? Well, while we're here, stumped, let us ponder why, or rather, where this problem comes from. Let us go all the way back to our start. From the moment we were born, that is. From that moment, we begin to want things. I want mommy, I want to be comforted, I want milk. And as we grow up, we quickly learn that we want to learn things. I want to crawl, I want to talk, I want to play. This initial drive to learn is very important, as even though the brain continues to develop and change into adulthood, the first 8 years of our life build a foundation for our future learning, health, and life successes. That is according to the CDC. Now, could the ability to learn by oneself, could that be intelligence? Well, this would make sense, as our greatest perceived geniuses have all made self-made discoveries. Maybe, stick with me here, the problem lies with our schooling system? I know, weird tangent. But please stick with me? Whatever, I'll keep yapping. We start school around the age of 5, while we are still in our most important mental stage. We are not given information that must be self-found. Yep, the ABCs, 1, 2, 3. My name is blank. All of this is stuff to be memorized. And we are given these things to memorize, and this continues until around middle school, after we have passed our most important developmental phase. It may sound silly to ask a first grader what the meaning of life is. Well, that is silly. Regardless, there is a footnote, which is not an answer, but a question. Why do we have the most free, self-taught, self-devised schooling at the end of our academic careers? Once we're in college, it's independent, which makes sense. We are adults at that time. But why don't we let kids, discover things for themselves? Sure, they have to be taught what is right or wrong. But as they say in theater, show, don't tell. What could society do if we only worked on our crucial thinking? How far could we go? Why not skip the unnecessary teaching and try to let our children tackle our hard questions? But they can't, can they? They're children. Yes, they may be at the prime of their developmental stages, but that does not mean they can learn about war and the socio-economic consequences of yada yada yada. They're children. Oh, jeez. Even my tangents don't get me anywhere. And like a mighty Ouroboros, I've come full circle. I've bitten my tail. I have all the pieces. I know that. I know that for true. I've searched. I've scoured the entirety of the internet. The infinite basin of knowledge. I have scoured through all of it. And my answer is nowhere to be found. I understand it's like finding a needle, and not necessarily in a haystack, more like a needle in a sandstorm. Or it's a grain of dust in a sandstorm, I guess would be more applicable. You wouldn't want a needle in a sandstorm. That would be stupid. I'm stupid. I can't even answer one question. I guess I'm not a nerd. I guess I'm not smart. I may not know what the limit of human intelligence is, but I definitely know the bottom of it. It's me. I can't answer one question and all the time I've spent. What a waste, and all the time you've spent listening to me ramble about nothing. Oh, please forgive me for wasting your time. Oh, praise Isaac Newton! That's it! Eureka! The limits to human intelligence is simply time. I was so smart. I was so smart, I was dumb. Oh, praise Einstein. It was right there in front of me. I even said it at the beginning, didn't I? Oh my, it was there the whole time. I did have all the pieces. I just couldn't see it. It was so simple. I thought it would have been smarter than that, but that is a smart answer, isn't it? Because it takes time to memorize things, and it takes time to form synapses, and it takes time to learn about bees. It takes time to, well, grow up, and it's time. That's the answer. It was always there. Well, time always is. I'd better stop overthinking, but that's the answer. We can only get as smart as our natural lives. We only live around 80 years on average, and that's not really a lot of time if you think about it. Heck, it took me... how long did it take me? Well, let's see if we count the two. Carry the amounts of coffee I had to take, and all these stupid images. Sorry, that was mean. I love these images. Well, this one question, it took me around 3 weeks. And, geez, 3 weeks of my life wasted, and I only have around 5,000 left, and if it did take me 3 weeks on average to answer a single silly question, I would only ever answer 1,600 questions. That may seem like a big number, but need I bring up the taxonomy and all the disciplines of academics again? No, you get the idea, but it's time. I will only ever answer 1,600 questions at this pace, and my, isn't that wonderful? I guess that makes us precious, doesn't it? Because, as we've learned, the amount of knowledge to learn is infinite, and we can learn an infinite number of things. We get to choose what we get to nerd out about. I could be a nerd for bees and spend my whole life learning about those little insects, and die happy knowing I'm the last person to know all there is to know about bees. I could spend my life learning about trains. I've always loved trains. Trains are nice. And so can you too. You get to choose what you want to learn about. And it just so happens that we have just enough time to learn about one thing. Or, as most people choose, many things that we love in our lifetime. So go out there and be a nerd while you still can. Time is running out. Here are my sources. Thank you for listening. I know my yapping can be a lot. And stay nerdy.